Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into Fantasy Daily. It is that time. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I've been at work all morning looking at other stuff from over the weekend. I'm still excited over the game last night. What a wild overtime finale. The Raiders and the Ravens, they really showed up last night. Especially for a Raiders fan right now. Last year, your biggest concern was the defense. You had confidence in the offense. And here it is. You got your win over one of the best teams in the AFC. So everybody's real high on the Raiders right now. Raiders fans are real stoked this morning. And I don't blame you. Take the week while you can, because what a victory. What a, back and forth game. If you guys haven't seen it, go ahead and check out the highlights on YouTube. Even if you scrub all the way to the end of the game and watch the fourth quarter and overtime. It was electric. It was, awesome. So go ahead and check that out. A lot of stuff came from that game. A lot of things that we were looking at. A lot of things that we want to know about. And one of my favorite takeaways, one of the best takeaways, and one of the most, relieving takeaways for me is that Josh Jacobs is definitely the clear A in this offense, with Drake just being a backup / relief. I don't think Drake is going to fit into that role where he gets 10, 15 carries a game. Josh Jacobs is going to be the clear-cut go-to guy, the goal line carries, all that good stuff. So if you're Josh Jacobs manager and we were a little worried like I was for a little bit, there you go. He'll be fine. Darren Waller, he's really, really good. Darren Waller is really, really, really good. And when you get 20 targets a game, you usually show up for fantasy. So I think Darren Waller right now is about to fit into the Travis Kelce realm, where he might even, I boldly say, contest with Travis Kelce. Actually, it's not even so bold, because think about it. If you have 20 targets a game, Travis Kelce's not getting 20 targets a game, but if Darren Waller's getting that kind of volume, which, to be honest, with everything that's, watching them the last 2 years, I'd be surprised if Darren Waller has a game where he gets less than 5 targets this year and he's active the whole game. So I think Darren Waller, if he's out in your league and people are, still considering him a lower end guy, which I doubt it, but if you happen to be in one of those leagues where they don't consider him on Travis Kelce's level, see if you can trade one of your wide receiver ones or something for him. I definitely would. See if you can trade a running back for him, because he's going to show up. Now, when I say wide receiver one, I don't mean one of your top 10 wide receivers. You need that guy. Don't go trade that guy. But if you could figure out some trade to get Darren Waller on your team and you're hurting at tight end, that's a power that you can't, you can't go wrong with. Having that strength at that one position that nobody else besides the Travis Kelce manager has, that's big. So moving on from that, Hunter Renfrow, I think, is my only other takeaway from the Raiders side of the ball. Hunter Renfrow really does have like a Julian Edelman, Steve Smith kind of vibe to him, which I like for fantasy and I like for even their offense. Now, what I hate about Derek Carr is that he sometimes forgets that he has wide receivers, but I do think that Hunter Renfrow, if you can get him off the waiver wire and you're in need of a wide receiver, if you're in a 12-man, 14-team league or deeper than that, then, Hunter Renfrow might be out there and he's a good person that you can, or a good player that you can put into your flex spot for sure. Moving on to the Ravens side of the ball, Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson are really good, so no surprise there. I think Mark Andrews actually might have disappointed last night, now that I think about it. I don't have it all on right here. But Mark Andrews, don't worry about it. He'll be back. My biggest takeaway from the Ravens side, obviously, is Tyson Williams. I think Tyson Williams is now a guaranteed starter in your running back 2 or flex spot for the rest of the year. Even though he got vultured by Latavius Murray on that one play, I do think that, he's going to have that every week appeal that you need to send you over the top in, your running back or your flex spot. So he's not going to serve running back 1 value. You're not going to get the immediate Gus Edwards that you were hoping for, but the running back 2 value is definitely there, I think, for the rest of the season. And if he's in your flex spot, you should be geeked up about it. I would be. The wide receiver takeaways that I have from the Ravens is that Marquise Brown, I think, is going to be a wide receiver 3 for the rest of the year. And that's a big gap for me, especially between flex and wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 3 means I'm really likely not going to trade you if I'm in a 3 wide receiver league. If I'm in a 2 wide receiver league, I really want that depth piece. I really want that flex out option for bye weeks, injury insurance, anything like that. So it's really tough for me to take a player from the flex range and put him into the wide receiver 3. So understand that this is a nod at Marquise Brown, that I think this is, a start to something special for them. And Marquise Brown might actually be a top 25, top 30 wide receiver by the end of the year. Whereas last year he was very disappointing. The year before that, I think he was a rookie and he was very disappointing. So we were all expecting Marquise Brown to, break out and everything. This might be the year he breaks out, but I think he does have a very solid floor in this offense. So that's why I moved him from the flex range to wide receiver 3. With that, Sammy Watkins was also showing up as well. I think Sammy Watkins does belong in the flex consideration, but he belongs into the flex consideration in the same way that streaming wide receivers on the waiver wire belong in the flex consideration. So that's all my takeaways from last night. Let's get ready to news, and I don't have much today. I kind of want to just brush through it. Saints had multiple COVID positive tests on their offensive coaches, It shouldn't affect Sunday's game. We have 5 days to go until then, but just keep an eye on that. If you have those players, be wary, always be, moving around and paying attention to what you're doing, but keep an eye out on that. Shouldn't affect it, but it might, so keep an eye out. Moving right into our main segment of today's show. Take all the week 1 information, take all your draft information, actually throw the draft information away because now you don't need it. Well, you need a little bit of it with the offseason, but we got all this week 1 information. We have all our previous information. We have sample size and everything. And after what we saw in week 1, how does it affect the top 10 running back and top 10 wide receiver rankings for the rest of the season? So that's what we have today. I'm going to start with the running backs because it's a little bit easier to go through the running backs. They change a lot less, whereas wide receivers, I think, are a lot more malleable during the season. They move around a lot. So the running backs, they're very important. Everybody knows that that's their most important one in the league, most important position in the league. So I'm going to start there, and the top 3 for me have not changed, so I'll just rapid fire them off. That's CMC, Dalvin Cook, and Alvin Kamara in that order. So those top 3 have not changed for me. I think that's obvious for anybody who's been playing fantasy football for the last 5 years or so. You have to have these 3 at the top, just because their ability to pop off is, unmatchable to anybody else, especially with CMC. So moving into the number 4 slot, which is probably going to surprise a lot of people because he's rising up from basically like the 9th, 10th spot all the way up to the 4th slot. But this is because of his goal line touchdown that he got this week. If we're seeing him did I say his name? No, I didn't. It's Austin Eckler. So Austin Eckler is in at the 4th slot because of the goal line carry that I saw and that we're starting to see is that if he's going to be the goal line back, if he's going to be the every down back, if he's going to be the gadget back, he's getting everything going his way. So I really do think that Austin Eckler is automatically, shooting up the rankings because if he can do this all year, he's going to fit into that top 3 category, top 5 category where he has the ability every single week to put up 30, 35 points. So Austin Eckler, I think if you have the ability to go get him for a little bit cheaper, if you can take a Josh Jacobs and package him with somebody else to get it, Austin Eckler, it depends on your league, but some leagues you'll be able to do this stuff. So if you can do this stuff, I think it's worth a shot going out there and trying to actually make it happen. At number 5, I have Derrick Henry. Now, I know he had a down week, but you still got to respect the back-to-back rushing leader. So that's why I kept him at 5. There's not much I can say off of this. He had a bad week. He had a down week, but I don't take much off of it. Game script got away from him for this one, but Derrick Henry's not one of those people that game script can always get away from him. I think that this happens to Derrick Henry maybe 1 or 2 more times the rest of the season, and that's it. So don't worry too much about it. He's going to have his explosive games. He's going to have his games where he, has 2 points or something like that. Don't worry about it. Number 6, we have Saquon Barkley. So I think with Saquon Barkley, a lot of people looking at it the same exact way where, hey, I have, a running back who disappointed. I had an offseason with a bunch of questions. What are we going to do? Saquon Barkley just got eased in. And you can see it if you look at the carry counts. They wanted to use him, but they didn't want to overuse him. They didn't want to have him on the smash plays where he's getting, rustled around a lot. So they're still easing him back in, so that's why I don't move him too far down. But as far as the people who jumped up above him, I think they have the more explosive opportunity compared to Saquon Barkley. And we also don't know how long it's going to take him to move into that, so we'll see. At number 7, I have Nick Chubb because I think Nick Chubb, even with Kareem Hunt, that whole offense moves through them for the entire year, in my opinion. I think that no matter what, you're going to see Nick Chubb having these, 20-plus point games in fantasy and PPR, and you're going to have Kareem Hunt putting up 10 plus every single game. So I think for all the offseason hype on the Browns, it's going to mostly move through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So Kareem Hunt went far up my rankings. Nick Chubb jumped up a couple spots, but I have him at 7, and I think he remains there for probably the foreseeable future, and he might even move up above Quads and Derrick Henry at some point, because I think that entire offense moves through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt respectively, but mostly Nick Chubb. At number 8, I have Aaron Jones. Now, I think Aaron Jones is my biggest concern on this list because of what we saw this week in Green Bay, and it was more of a careless team, I will say. Very, very just hanging around playing football kind of thing. I'm not really sure what was going on with Aaron Rodgers and if he's doing some stunt to get traded or whatever it is. But when you see that, you have to temper your expectations and not know when it's going to rebound, not know when it's going to happen. And it's not inevitable that Aaron Rodgers does get traded. I mean, it's not impossible that Aaron Rodgers gets traded. And if that's the case, and he does get traded, then you're stuck with Jordan Love and you have no clue what's going on. So as much as I don't think that's going to happen, it's still in the realm of possibilities. And if Aaron Rodgers is kind of throwing this temper tantrum, I'll call it, and not going to play and, kind of meh the game when it gets out of hand, I don't know what I want to do with these players. So Aaron Jones, I had to move down, but at the same time, he's still on one of the best offenses, can be best offenses, and so that's why you got to keep him at 8. Now, at number 9, I had somebody jump in, and I'm sure at number 10, you guys are wondering why you still haven't heard one name, and I'll explain why. But at number 9, I have Joe Mixon, and the reason I have Mixon at 9 is because I think this is another situation where they're not going to have a choice but to use Mixon more than they want to throughout the year goes on. So seeing Mixon get these 20-plus carries, that's when I want to see him, my running back every single week. And when you have an offense with 3 powerhouse wide receivers, and at any point in time, one of them can get up the field with a great bomb, you have Joe Mixon and can punch it into the end zone, yada, yada, yada. I think Joe Mixon's a great play this year. I think he's a great person to have in your running back 1 slot if you need consistency. I think he's going to have that high upside. He might have 3 or 4 games where he's down, but I think he carries a lot of consistency this year for sure. At number 10, this is probably going to be my most controversial pick. People are like, come on. But it's got to be Zeke. I have Zeke at 10. I kept him at 10. I didn't move him any lower. And he actually, by natural selection, got pushed down the list when it came to who I wanted and who I think is going to impact, the most throughout the year. Now, Dallas is coming back from the Dak injury. Dak's throwing a lot. He's throwing a lot. And he has Amari Cooper and CD and Gallup, and they're all healthy right now. Now, Amari Cooper also jumped into my spoiler alert top 10 this week, and I'll show you where he is soon. But I think Zeke, out of all the running backs above him, has the best chance and the most likely chance of it happening most often of getting game scripted out of the game. Because Dallas defense is good, but it's not elite by any means. So when it comes to shutting down a game where you can actually get Zeke back into the run and have him run out the clock, I don't think that game's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen much for Zeke this year because the defense is going to be giving Dak the chance to get back on the field, to put it politely. So Dak's going to get on the field. He's going to have to throw. They're going to be throwing a lot this year. I think Dak, Gallup, CeeDee, and Amari are all going to be studs this year. Maybe Gallup's over in the flex range and everything, but I think just that passing offense is going to be absolute studs. And when that happens, you see running backs, even though they're really good, get game scripted out because Dak's going to have his dump offs to Zeke. You're going to have those things that happen. But as far as who would I rather have in my top 10 ascension, Zeke naturally got pushed down to 10 because I think game script alone, he might be able to get pushed out. And that's not what I want in my running back 1 slot. I want that consistency. So, as weird as it is to say, I do have Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones above Ezekiel Elliott right now. But I think it's due to the offense that Dallas is right now and who they want to be, what they want to prove. Mike McCarthy coming out and just saying, let's bomb this ball all day. Dak Prescott being all about it. And if it's working, keep going. They almost knocked off Tampa Bay, which is still an elite defense. I know it's week 1, but even in a week 1 Tampa Bay defense, they're elite, better than some of the other defenses out there are going to want to be all year. So I think seeing that, they're going to want to pass. They're going to have no choice to pass, and it might give Zeke, unfortunately, game scripted out. So that's where my top 10 running backs are for the rest of the year. To go back over that list real quick, it's CMC, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler sneaking into the 4 spot, Derrick Henry pushing down to the 5 slot, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, and Zeke falling all the way to 10 for me. So there's that. And to conclude the show, top 10 wide receivers. So our last segment for the show real quick. Not much has changed on this as far as the top as well, more of a rearranging, but there were some surprising ones that snuck in for me. Some players I had to push down, which were tough. You'll see that Justin Jefferson fell out of my top 10, and I love Justin Jefferson, but when you consider what you just saw in KJ Osborne, Adam Thielen going off, you have the two are going to be off, all year. So it's kind of a Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf thing, except Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are a lot more unpredictable, I think, where it's, it's going to be a fall. It's going to be an even week, but there's going to be fall-offs where you need it. So I think it's going to be a lot more hard to predict, and that's how Justin Jefferson still fell out of my top 10. I'm not saying I don't love Justin Jefferson. He's close. He's probably at number 13 or something like that, but he fell out of the top 10 for me. So if you have players that were top 10 everywhere and you hear me say it, don't hit the panic alarm. This is just where my top 10 is for the rest of the season so far. It'll change week 2, week 3, blah, blah, blah throughout. But for right now, this is where my perception is where of who I want of wide receivers and where they're ranked. So number 1, number 2 really haven't changed respectively from who you thought. Obviously, I have Davante Adams falling because of the Green Bay offense and the question marks and what I saw this weekend, what we all saw this weekend. But Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are my 1 and 2. Kind of obvious. Their offenses are really powerful. Stephon Diggs in a game where the Bills really couldn't get anything going and had a lot of trouble. They struggled against the Pittsburgh offense. He still put up about 16 points in fantasy. So I think Stephon Diggs is another one of those people where even in a bad week, he really comes through for you every single week. So Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill goes without saying. So both of them two I think are, top tier. Can't go wrong with them any week. I don't want to move them for anything. At number 3, I have DeAndre Hopkins. Now, DeAndre Hopkins for me went from 7th to 3rd. So that's a huge jump. Nobody really makes that jump. But I think what we just saw in Arizona's offense is that they can do whatever they want. And even if you're not playing the best defense, for Arizona to figure out a way on everything this weekend, for Kyler Murray to figure out a way on every play, even when I was like, there's no way he can do it, it was Patrick Mahomes' level of clutch when it came to finding a way to do it. So talked about Christian Kirk yesterday. I think Christian Kirk is, solidified as the wide receiver 2 in that offense now. But DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, when you're with Kyler Murray, them two are going to be, meshed together like they were last year. DeAndre Hopkins might do games like this 10 times this year. Double touchdown games, you know what I mean? So I think DeAndre Hopkins is well on his way to having 15 touchdowns this year, and you're going to see monster games from him. So that's why I have him at 3. Calvin Ridley, I have at 4. It was an okay game for him, but he is an absolute necessity for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan looks for him immediately. We didn't see much from Kyle Pitts in this game. We didn't see much from Atlanta to begin with in this game at all. They got kind of pummeled by Philadelphia, but Calvin Ridley, you can see it in the offense and the way that they move. He's the dominant, I need you, that Matt Ryan sees. So Calvin Ridley's going to get a ton of, yards. Matt Ryan's going to throw a ton of yards. They're going to get a ton of catches, touchdowns, all this good stuff. So Calvin Ridley's up there at number 4 for me. Now, falling to number 5 is Davante Adams. And now I know this is like voodoo. It's even voodoo for me. Davante Adams is my favorite player of all time. But we need to be honest with after what we saw last week. Now, I really hope that Aaron Rodgers comes back this week and he slings the ball and Davante Adams goes for 35 fantasy points and the offense goes off and it's all happy days for, everything. But the attitude of Aaron Rodgers during the game, the fact that Jordan Love was put in late in the game, the way that that's not just the Saints defense. You know it as well as I do when you watch that game, and so does everybody else watching that game going, something's not right here. So with that, when it comes to the politics within football teams, you do have to take some sort of that into consideration. We don't have to get into it on the show, but you do have to take it into consideration when it comes to your rankings. So Davante Adams I have right there. At number 6, I have Keenan Allen. And now I talked about it a lot in previous shows where Mike Williams was really undervalued, and I said a lot, if he's on your waiver wire, you got to go get him. Now, I know in like 10-team, 12-team leagues, he's really not rostered, but if you have like an 8-man league, some smaller league like that, he might even slip through on your 10-team league. If you have that, just go take a look for him is all I'm saying. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are going to be an unstoppable duo this year. They're going to be the duo that we're talking about this year because Mike Williams just got an absurd amount of targets. Keenan Allen just got an absurd amount of targets, so I think they're going to keep rolling with that for the rest of the year, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them with just sticking to, we got this, we got Eckler, let's roll. That's it. And I think you're going to keep seeing those target shares every single week remain where we just saw them. So Keenan Allen's high up there. Mike Williams moves into my top 25, which is really high for a wide receiver too, but that's it. So at number 7, we have Amari Cooper. I think with Amari Cooper especially, you have upside of if he plays healthy every single week, you could see this happen every single week. So it's going to hurt the people who paid for CD, like me. I paid for CD, and it kind of hurts seeing Amari Cooper go off like this, but it's good. It's good that Amari Cooper's going off like this. It's good for the offense. CD will still have his games where he finishes above Amari Cooper, but if Amari Cooper can stay healthy and keep playing the way he is playing now, he's gonna finish in the top 5, I think. I only have him at 7 because of the injury concern, but besides that, I think this offense, like I said, is primed to just sling the ball all year as much as they can. And Amari Cooper's routes right now, they look just disgusting. Nobody can cover him, in practice, watching it on Hard Knocks, watching it in the game, nobody could cover him, and he's unstoppable. So if he keeps playing like that, he's going to end up in the top 5. He's going to keep rising up these rankings, but that's where I got Cooper now at 7. At number 8, I have A.J. Brown. Now, I know a lot of people were high on Julio in the offseason. I wasn't really high on Julio in the offseason. You don't just move over to a different team and then take the number 1 slot from some guy like A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is a number 1. He's an elite wide receiver. He has the rapport with Ryan Tannehill already. That's going to continue. So I'm not shocked that A.J. Brown stays here. I'm not shocked that Julio had the week he did. We've been saying all offseason, probably avoid Julio if you can. So that's why I have him at 8. Now, depressingly, the guy dropping down to number 9 is Allen Robinson. Now, as much as I love Allen Robinson, I am all out on Andy Dalton throwing the football. I really don't like what I saw with Andy Dalton. I think it's just a matter of time before Justin Fields sneaks in there and takes the game. So that's why I have Allen Robinson at 9, because I'm saying rest of season, I expect Justin Fields to take the reins. And when Justin Fields does take the reins, that's when Allen Robinson's really going to, remind you who you are with what you're doing, especially when it comes to late stretch of the year when Justin Fields really gets going. So watch out for that. Number 10, this is probably my most controversial one, especially with how much I said during the offseason. I don't like Seattle wide receivers for how much of a flip of the coin they are, but Tyler Lockett slips into at number 10. As much as I love DK Metcalf, I think especially for DK Metcalf going forward this year, Tyler Lockett has the clear rapport where he's going to continue to be the red zone guy. He's going to have weeks where he falls off. I know that. But when it comes to finishing in the top 10, I can't take Tyler Lockett out of there. I can't take him out of the 30-point games, the 40-point games. He has to be in that consideration. So considering that, he's going to win you that week when it happens. When he puts you up those 30 points, those 35 points, he's going to win you the week. So as much as they want it to be a rush-heavy team, as much as we're worried about it going back to a rush-heavy team later on in the year, I think Tyler Lockett's consistency and his boom potential, obviously he has some bust potential, but I think you can eat a couple weeks and be sad about it. Obviously, Tyler Lockett's not going to be your number 1 wide receiver on your team. If he is, you're in a deeper league, but if you have Tyler Lockett at a number 2 wide receiver, I think you're set for the year, and I'm willing to roll him every single week, not even play the matchup game where I go, oh, this might be the week he busts, this might be the week he busts. I'm going to roll with him throughout. So that's why I put Tyler Lockett at 10, because at this point, I'm falling to the mercy of it. If he gives me that bad week, he gave me that bad week. But I know he's going to give me those 35-point weeks. He's absolutely sick. If you guys didn't see his touchdown, the over-the-head adjustment touchdown, he's unlike any other small guy, inside, outside wide receiver I've ever seen. So it's hard for me to move Lockett over there. He's going to hurt your feelings a couple times, but he's going to make you really, really happy a couple weeks, maybe even when you need it. You're down 35 and you're like, oh, there's no way it's going to happen. And he puts up a 40-burger because you got Lockett. He's one of the players that can do it, so I think that's where he fits in. So That's the show for today, guys. Real quick, I'm going to recap these top 10 wide receivers. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Adams falling to 5, which hurts. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, A.J. Brown, Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett. And that's the one. So, thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for everything. Follow me over on TikTok. I'm over there now. I post a lot of content, up-to-the-date stuff over there, breaking injury news and all that. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Until tomorrow, I'll see ya. Take it easy.